So, I propose to open the discussion about mitigating bias with Karen. She is an accomplished facilitator. For who doesn't know her, she is a trainer and executive coach for organizational effectiveness, transformation, and intercultural initiatives, which is one of the most subjects that we share together. She has over 20 years of worldwide experience across Canada and other countries as India, Russia, and recently Abu Dhabi. With expertise in developing conscious awareness and creating collaborative cultures, I am sure she will challenge you by her question. She will challenge your thoughts today about unconscious bias and provide you with valuable information, which you can immediately put into practice in your workplace. So please welcome to Karen Diaz.
Thank you very, very much, Joanne, Madame Saint-Ange. Appreciate that introduction. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you. That I know everyone, we all have busy lives, and I really appreciate that you took the time out of your day for this session, which I know will be of benefit to you and to colleagues, communities, any work or volunteer that you do. I'd like to start off, because we're a small group, if you could just tell me just a few words of what you do, that would be great, so that I can really connect with the different aspects of the individuals here. So I'd like to start with Lynn Salzwerska. Did I say it right, Lynn?
Close, Karen. It's Slowaska.
Slowaska.
Yes, sorry, and I'm sorry, I can't find the. Can you see me? No.
No. At the bottom on the left.
You can just hear me. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a camera if you wanted to put it on, so we could.
But I don't see it. That's the thing. I'm just seeing an audio button. Select a speaker, select a microphone. That's the weird thing. I've never seen this set up this way. So I'm sorry if you can't see me. It's because I really don't see any settings for camera. So, okay.
Okay.
I will check if I can change the setting, but usually we don't put cameras.
That's why. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's why.
It depends the setting.
Okay, that's fine.
If you are in webinar or in training, if you are in training, we give camera, but in webinar, usually we don't give the microphone or the camera, but we give it this morning because we think we are a small group and we have time to make interaction. And what I want to say, Karen, if people want to speak in French, they can speak in French, I think. You understand French?
Un peu, oui, et Joanne, tu racontais et dis à moi.
Yes.
Si je ne comprends pas. Okay?
That's one of the sharing that we do together.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn?
Yes. Okay, so just a little quick synopsis, or my background is I've got a varied background in business, customer service, marketing, communications, project management, and the last 10 years in human resources, occupying or having different management and senior management. And currently, I am working as an HR consultant at the McGill University Health Center. So I work in the service to managers team, excuse me, and I essentially work on giving advice to managers on the organizational structure, and planification de la relève, and also I'm doing a lot of talent acquisition. So that's why I took a course not long ago on unconscious bias.
Yeah.
online,
Okay.
and I just wanted to follow up because it's so key and important. And I've got a psychology background, so I'm very, it's not like these subjects are, and I do a lot of
Yes.
studying. I'm very interested in neuroscience, anything, and so, cognitive biases and so on. But I think now more than ever, especially with what's happening in the world, I think we're there. Like that awakening just has to be like full. For me, it has to be full open, like open all the systems. I need to really be in that space and aware of it more than I have been, per se. Yeah.
Well, Lynn, thank you very much. And it's interesting, Lynn, because for the last 2 years, the MUHC, we've been providing the unconscious bias training to managers, but
Right.
once again, they don't have it mandatory. So you only get maybe 9 or 10 people.
Unfortunately.
Joanne has done, so we do English and French, and Joanne has done the French program. We've adapted it, but they're doing okay. They just need to do more, like they're trying to ensure they do something, you know?
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe on my side, I can push a little bit more. No, I didn't know that you'd offered it in the past. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Um, Madame Zohara?
Zora,
Zora, Madame Zora, hi, how are you?
I think her microphone is closed. You
Oh
can
yeah, it
open
is.
it if you want.
Me?
No, it's
Oh.
Zora. She can open it.
So
Hello.
perfect, Zora. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
I welcome you,
Oh,
and I am so happy to discuss with you. I'm
okay.
from Algeria. I'm from Algeria, and I am a teacher of English. And now we are forced to have holidays. It depends on the virus that we
Yes.
have. So for this reason, I want just to ask you a question. Yeah, if I return back to school, and how to share my pupil because they have an exam, a formal exam, and I want you to just to help me how to evaluate or to help my pupils to move on and to deal with the stress and the virus and to move on to have an exam in a good environment. Have you understand?
Yes, I do. And if you wouldn't mind, if you'd like to say it in French, so I'll make sure I understand. Is that your first language, French?
My first language is French, but I'm a teacher of English.
Okay, okay, I
Yeah.
understood. So when we talk about like bias, this is really something that can be talked about in the class because it's
Yeah.
part of, so if you want to understand about bias and even the school, I'll bring that up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can ask me different questions related to that, because right now a lot of schools, they have a town hall where everybody's there, or the class, and they talk about what is diversity, what is race, what is racism, what's inclusion. Okay, because of the world and everybody.
That's it.
Am I okay? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you
Yes.
very
That's
much.
it. Thank you. But I'm attending your conference in order to share with you an ideas, and then thank you for your reply. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Manon,
You are welcome.
Good morning.
good morning.
I'm just curious about your subject and looking forward to discover it. For myself, I'm a freelancer and I'm a business coaching
Okay.
business coach.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you, Manon. Manon, my coaching, I'm presently in the PCC program, professional coaching, leading to my ICF. And
Good luck. Good luck. I
I
have
know.
already my PCC. I
Yeah.
have one, but I do the long version with portfolio. it's quite tough, and
Well,
so
I have
don't
to say,
discourage yourself.
I have to say, I'm grateful for meeting you that have completed that. I'm doing so far, I'm enjoying it so long because it's 15, 20 years. I didn't do it. I should have done it before. So now with COVID, I've been fortunate. I'm with Ericsson International.
Yes.
And I'm into my second module. I got 4 doing my coaching, you know.
Supervised coaching, yes.
Yeah, log up. So thanks for sharing
Yeah,
that.
it's a lot of things, but you will see it worth it. And
Yes.
don't hesitate if you need question, keep my name, and it will be my pleasure to give you some tricks if I could, but I know that you're better than me, so.
I don't know about
I'll be
that.
sure you will succeed with that, don't worry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much. Okay, what about Aziz? Just a quick intro.
Non, ça va. C'est bon.
It's okay.
Oh, okay. All right, let's move along. So, Joanne,
Just to say, we have other people who join us. I think maybe Mag or Nadia, welcome. And feel free to add your comments in the chat or ask questions. And maybe you can present yourself during the presentation or after.
hi, Nadia.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
Nice to have you here with us, and I'm going to start. So I want you all to know, because I saw in the chat somebody asked, how can we ask questions? When you have a question, do you all see at the bottom, put your hand up? Or you could write it in the chat. Manon raised her hand. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And, or you can write it in the chat, and Joanne is my moderator. So if you write a question in the chat, she will look at it and she will say, okay, Karen, we have a question, and she'll read it. Does that work for everyone? Happy face?
I think so.
Okay,
Hi,
great.
everybody. Hi.
Hi, Nadia. Your sound is not, your sound.
You just need to be a little louder, Nadia.
I don't speak very well English, so I will speak in French.
Yes, that's okay.
Good.
Okay.
I can speak with you in French.
Yes.
Oui. Bien
Yes.
sûr.
Okay.
Yes, bien sûr. Salut. Alors,
Okay.
salut tout le monde. Je suis Nadia, je suis du Maroc. Je me présente. Je serai dans quelques minutes chez moi. Maintenant, vous allez entendre un peu de bruit parce que je suis dehors. Mais je suis dans 5 minutes, je serai chez moi et je vais intervenir. Je m'intéresse à votre conférence. Voilà.
Excellent. Bienvenue,
Okay.
Nadia. Donc,
All right.
Karen, on te laisse débuter. On a déjà
Okay.
vu avec
So,
les participants. Merci.
Je suis
now,
très contente.
okay, so I'm going to talk about, just to give you an idea, we're going to talk today, we're going to have a dialogue. We're a small group, you have questions. You know, Joanne mentioned, I have been, now I think about it, aged myself, been in the field of diversity, inclusion, equity, gender equality for 30 plus years. I was the gender specialist overseas, so please feel free with your questions. We're going to look at the different types of workplace bias. As we all have seen, all that has happened in the world, there's something wrong, okay? And it starts with individuals and it starts with organizations, but it's good for us to have the awareness. So we're also going to look at bias and decision-making. And this aspect and the research that's been done, it's very large. There's lots of research that speaks to how we make decisions. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you some examples and ask you for things that you have seen in how people have interrupted bias at work. So let's start off with bias. I think that we all may have a bit of understanding, but let's get on the same page. Bias is a judgment. It's a decision that we make consciously, even when there's information to the contrary. Okay, so bias is a judgment or a decision when there's really positive data, but we make a decision to the contrary. So one of the things I remember when I worked in the Russian Federation, all my friends, they had this bias and they were, okay, be ready because Russians drink a lot of vodka, be ready. So to me, it was like a bias, you know, associating an action with a country. So what I found was that I didn't bother about it. And I caught myself in situations where there's a jug of water on the table after I've spoken, and I pour it thinking it's water and it's not. So we sometimes have to say that we have to pay attention and be aware. And when we talk about the biases, some of them are part of fight and flight. Anyone in psychology may be familiar. So sometimes they're good because they prevent us from fighting or they prevent us from flying, going away. Unconscious bias. Unconscious bias, the most important thing is to know we all have unconscious bias. And this is when we make quick decisions, and they're usually always based on our own experience. So I want you to think about this week. Did you make any quick decisions which were based on your experience? So think about that as I go through. So when we talk about bias and we talk about unconscious bias, it all starts with the brain. 11 million bits of information at one time is coming through our brain. 11 million bits. But guess what? Our brain can only process 50 bits. So look at how much that we don't process. And of those 50 bits of information per second, that information that we have is usually we're responding to something. We might not have taken the time to reflect and think about it. We might not have taken the time to reflect and think, is this true or is this not? When we think of those quick reactions, we have to realize that they come through our upbringing, how we were brought up. They come through our experience, come through our education background, the society, the community, the culture that we live in. They all influence us in making the quick decisions. So now we're going to have a little game. Joanne, I see a Q&A, one question. Oh, okay, it's okay. So we have a little activity here. I want you to look at this picture and tell me, and I will give you some, what type of bias is this? And I just want you to write it in the chat, or we need to focus on diversity. Your goal is to hire people who all look different but think like me. Is this conformity bias? Is this attribution bias? Is this affinity bias? Attribution, conformity, affinity. Which one is it?
You can write it in the chat.
Est-ce qu'on répond tout de suite ou bien on fait la réponse par chat?
Vous le faites instantanément par chat.
Par chat? D'accord.
So people say conformity.
Yeah.
I know, I'm not sure to understand the difference between attribution, conformity, and infinity.
Okay, we're going to talk about that.
I would say for me, infinity.
Okay, very interesting because
So you have diverse answers.
yeah, it's but what we have here is affinity bias. Okay, an affinity bias is when we tend to relate and work with and enjoy working with people like ourselves. So, you know, my sister, about a couple of years back, she said to me, Karen, you have a bias in how you hire people. I said, really? She says, well, all the people I know that have worked as an assistant with you all went to McGill. I never really thought about it, but now I pay attention because diversity, even in my practice, is so important. So I make sure the people I collaborate have varying backgrounds. So I work a lot with Joanne, and on the outside, people will look at us and may think we're very, very different. But deep inside, we have so many similarities. So this one is affinity bias. So when we talk about affinity bias, it shows up in the workplace. We are attracted to people like ourselves. Where do you see affinity bias showing up in your workplace? I would like to open the mic.
Yeah.
Where do you see affinity bias showing up in your workplace? Where people...
Pardon, oui.
Go ahead.
Oui.
Est-ce que je peux avoir la question en français, s'il vous plaît?
Joanne?
À quel moment ou à quel endroit vous pouvez identifier des biais dans votre milieu de travail? Des biais d'affinité.
Lynn, I see your, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I would say where I've seen it systemically, if you want, or systematically across my career, it's leadership teams, senior management teams, right? They've got, there's kind of like the old boys club that's network that's still less strong now than it was maybe 10 or 20 years ago, but like the females coming in are still coming in from the same type of schools, backgrounds, even sometimes similar enclaves. So there's a lot of and boards of directors are the same. I've dealt with a lot of boards of directors, and there's a lot of affinity bias going on there. And it can happen obviously in our recruiting practices,
Yes.
for sure. Like, let's not, I try as I do quite a bit of talent acquisition, and I'm trying to be as conscious as I can about it, but nonetheless.
That's
So
right.
I would say those are for what I've seen a lot of, or where I've seen affinity bias.
Well, that's excellent, Lynn. And if I may add to that, or just confirm, we've seen more and more, especially on boards. So when we look at about 5 years ago, in the last 2-3 years, it was all the push to develop women's skills for board members. And I used to always find this very, very interesting, because I would see the type of woman and they all looked the same.
Yes.
And they were, thank you, Lynn. Okay, yeah. And they all looked the same to me, and it was like myself as a Black woman, Canadian, 55 years here in Quebec, I never felt like I can enter those trainings on being a board member. I just didn't know why that was necessary. just put women on boards. You know, it's not about having boards operate the same way. As we've seen in the world with a lot of things that have happened, we have to operate differently. And now the push on the boards, it's not only women, it's for racialized groups. So when we talk about racism that we've seen with Black people, and we've seen it with Asian people. So now they're calling for more diversification of the board. Thank you very much, Lynn. What about Manon? What do you think, Manon?
As I said, I just now understand better what is an affinity bias.
Okay.
See a lot of places where we could have this this kind of bias.
Yeah.
Sports, in the gym, and social relationship.
Exactly.
And work, in the work situation, many places.
Yes. And one area, Manon, because you brought that up, is that I challenge you, or I want to give you a tool to use, and that is you get a piece of paper, a lined paper. Everybody could see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Do it even later. And then what you do is you fold it, if you have, like this.
Okay.
Okay. And then what you do is you write Joanne, Jim, Mike, Carrie. So I write the names of people. We call this the 10 top list. Who are the people I trust the most and I'm closest to? Not including family. And you write the name, okay? And when you look at this, it gives you an idea. First you write the list, and then you could say, wow, look at my list. I have 9 men and 1 woman. Wow, look at my list. Look at their age. Wow, the majority that, you know, I trust that are 50 years old. Interesting. Wow, what language do they speak? And this gives us an indication of areas in our own life where we can increase understanding of diversity and inclusion. Did that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, interesting. It's a good way to figure it out if we unconsciously we do some affinity bias.
Yes, exactly.
I'm again.
Hi, Zora.
Yes, hi, I'm again. I want just I'm still confused about conformity and affinity, but
I can't hear you. Zora, you have to just raise your voice a little.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yes,
that's perfect.
Better.
Ah, perfectly. It's okay. I want just to tell you, I'm still confused about affinity and enmity, but through my experience, you know, that recently I had this experience when I went to an after work event, not knowing anyone else attending. I arrived 15 minutes late to avoid awkwardly standing around alone, anticipating tardy arrivals. The organizers had smartly added a half-hour buffer, and this, I found myself walking slowly into a room, scanning unfamiliar faces.
Yes.
For this reason, I want just to say affinity-based, similar to me, just a fact. And we all need a good environment in order to interrupt each other and in a good atmosphere.
Yes.
It's okay. And I want you to explore more in this subject in order to have more ideas about this and how to deal with this. Everyone, please, can I finish? It's okay. Are you hearing me?
Yes, it's
Yes,
good.
we
I'm
are
listening.
hearing.
Yes,
Do you see us?
it's okay. Thank you. If you, yeah, no, she can't see me. She can't see me.
No, do you
But
see us?
I can see her. I can see her. Yes, I can see her. I can see her, and you are so
Okay.
sweet. Can you hear me?
So you
Yes.
have 30, please, Zora, you have a few seconds to expose
Okay.
your
I want just.
point.
I told. Yes.
Yes,
We
I
have a
understand. I think
we
I
have a
understand.
problem of connection.
No,
A little
Zora,
bit.
I think I understand
Yes.
one of the questions you mentioned when you talked about
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to have affinity because when you go into a room, the first thing is you look for people that might be familiar to you. Am I correct?
That's it. That's it. All right.
Yes. And what
Yes.
I
Yes.
want to,
I'm
and what,
listening.
yeah, and what I want to share with everyone in the field of D&I, and it's a quote that I've used often, and it makes people reflect. And the quote is, we have to be more comfortable with the uncomfortable, okay? And less comfortable with the comfortable.
We have
Okay.
another people. Nadia raised her hand.
Yes, Nadia?
Yes, donc moi je vais intervenir en français. J'espère que ça va être compris. Alors je suis très contente d'être parmi vous et d'assister à cette conférence pertinente. Alors moi je suis du Maroc et je peux vous exprimer qu'il y a je sais de quoi vous parlez. Et ça, on le sent nous aussi à travers les comportements de certains dirigeants envers leurs employés. Et ça, on est en train d'y travailler au sein des associations pour qu'il n'y ait plus ces comportements-là. Voilà. Donc, j'espère enrichir mes connaissances et profiter d'être avec vous pour avoir plus d'informations et plus d'outils pour travailler parce que moi, je suis coach conférencière ici au Maroc et je fais mes conférences aussi en France. Et je voudrais bien bénéficier de cette expérience-là pour faire bénéficier d'autres personnes. En fait.
Merci Nadia.
Je vous remercie beaucoup.
On va laisser continuer et peut-être je vais résumer rapidement pour Madame Diaz. So she said about behaviors of decision maker, managers,
yeah,
and they are working, they see different bias in workplace, and they are working to improve the environment without bias. And it was a question from Zora too. So we just have around 10 minutes before conclusion, but we introduced the question and I'd like to let you continue the presentation, and maybe for the participant, we will open the discussion after. So because we have only 1 hour for this webinar.
Okay, everyone. Now this one is very interesting. I would like to know how many people know what the halo and the horn effect is. In the chat, write yes or no. The halo and the horn effect. Do you know what it is?
Nadia says no.
Okay.
Sarah?
Don't be shy. There
yes,
is
Lynn?
no good or wrong
Yes,
answer.
Sorry,
So
Joanne. Yes, Lynn?
Right, so I'll give it a shot. Okay, so halo, as I understand it, and I've not heard it but the horn, but I guess the horn is the other side of the halo
Okay.
spectrum, if you will. So
Yeah.
the halo is when you see or a quality someone, a quality or a trait, you know, like in the terms of the halo, it tends to be a positive trait in that person. And then you generalize to that person must be like something else. So you generalize that person must be a good person because they give their money to charities and they're a good person. And example.
Perfect.
So, okay. So the horn effect would be you see a negative behavior or something, and then you generalize and say they're a bad person or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone got that? So halo is when we see someone, and the example I'm gonna use sometimes is I look and, you know, you see somebody dressed really nicely and they have a briefcase. Automatically we think, oh, wow, and they're smiling. Oh, they're a great person. They must be so good at their job. And we have to be very careful because I had a client that told me, you know, Karen, because I wore 2 earrings and they told me I had to take it off at the time, I did. But then what happened is one day I didn't have a shirt and they saw my tattoo.
Oh,
so we have to be careful because of how somebody looks. We can attribute negativity. And that's wrong. So particularly in HR, particularly in teams, we have to, anyone doing development of leaders and coaching, if this comes up, we have to make sure they understand what they might be doing. Okay?
So there is Zora who put her definition of halo and horn effect. You can read it?
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. Just, I can't.
Or I can.
Yeah, Zora, the halo and horns effect is a type of cognitive bias. Yes, it is, where a person's impression of another can substantially influences one's thoughts and feelings about the person. Very good, yes. Okay, now I want to talk to you. I have another poll for you, another fun activity. What type of bias is at play? So we're looking with conformity, in affinity, and attribution. So a female manager, and you could open your mic, comments. I knew none of the male directors would sign up to sit on a gender equality panel. We've been asking them for the past year. Anybody open your mic would like to speak?
Or chat?
Okay, so I would take a guess that that's attribution.
Okay.
I don't see how it fits. Mel would like to say gender.
Yes, and actually it is attribution.
Yeah, so I would say it's, okay.
Yeah, very good. Because attribution is when we attribute certain behaviors to certain people based on the past. So in this area, the female managers, they had talked to the male managers. So their attribution theory was, well, they're not going to take part anyway because they're attributing that behavior to the past that they didn't want to take care. Excuse me, I'm very sorry. Oopsie. Now I'm on a webinar, I can't talk. Bye. Sorry, very sorry about that. So that's how I would explain to you attribution. Thank you, Lynn. Does everybody get that? Let's see. Okay. Nothing in the chat. Oh. Okay, I'm going to move on. So when we come, and I want to end around here, decision making. So we don't know what we don't know. Does everyone believe that there are some things that are unknown to us? The unconscious things that we don't know, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have to be aware of that when we talk about unconscious bias. So the things that we don't know, if you look, it takes up a lot of the circle pie right here. We don't know that we don't know. That takes up a lot. What we know, we don't know. So all of a sudden we get to the point here, what we know, we don't know, and what we know. So we don't know a lot. There's this huge area. And this could really get us in a lot of trouble when we look at decision making. So in decision making, we make assumptions, we draw a conclusion, there's a decision and an action. So in decision making, on one of my project trips to India, I'm with 5 men, senior engineers. They go and they shake hands, and I'm in the middle, not at the back, you know, nice respect from the Canadian men. And I go to shake the hands of the delegation from India. I noticed that none of the men from India would shake my hand. They barely looked me in the eye. So you've got to understand, 20 hours traveling. I left my 5-year-old crying at the airport. So my assumption, well, they don't really want to work with somebody that's a woman, or they're not really respectful of somebody that's a Black woman. I draw a conclusion. This is it. I'm here for 2 weeks and I'm not going to come back because I don't want to travel so far, upset my family to come to a place where they don't respect me. And so my decision's made and my action. But when I go outside the airport and I get in the car with the HR director, after talking for a while, I asked her, I said, why didn't the men shake my hand? And she said, Karen, they just gave you the best amount of respect. So if I had made my decision based on how they weren't, without having this information of, I don't know what I don't know, I would have made a bad decision. Any comments or thoughts? Has anyone experienced anything similar?
Well, I think it was a good thing that you have to travel with the HR woman, because what we realized with the experience, and I travel a lot like you and maybe have some example, but we have to stop before making conclusion too rapidly. And we have to verify our assumption before making conclusion. And then it will be better, especially when we are in a different environment, a different country, a different group. And we always think, in the training, I give the example of glasses. If I go in China or if I go in Morocco with my Canadian glasses, probably I won't understand the way they speak, the way they act. But if I go to other people, I need to put other glasses to understand.
Great, thank you. So it's 10:02, so I think I'll stop. And
I want to return, please.
Yes, Zora?
Yes, I'm again, Zora, concerning effect on decision making.
Yes.
I want just to tell something.
Yes.
I want to give it in general idea. I think that significant factors include past experience, a variety of cognitive bases, an escalation of commitment and sank outcomes, individual difference. All this are including and effects on decision making in our life or at work. Is it
Yes.
okay? That's
Yes.
it.
And
thank you.
Zora, I want to ask you, because
Yeah.
you know very well and you've talked about helping people improve. So I want to
Oh.
ask you about the decision making. What is your opinion of what you or others can do when it comes to decision making?
According to my experience, I haven't a lot experience, but you know, sometimes we should be powerful to any situation in order to move on and take objective decision. And I know that, including age, socioeconomic status, or our belief in a personal relevance. It's okay. So these things all impact the decision making process or the decisions made. That's all.
Yes. And
thank you for your listening.
Oh, for sure. I'm just going to add to that and let everyone know, like, well, what's the strategy? What do we do? And I might just go
What
through this.
hours?
Yeah, and look, one of the strategies
You know,
is on
if you want to talk, yes, I'm listening. You know that sometimes if you want to talk about this role or the effects and how the strategy, I think that it depends of the individual. We have the differences of our minds and differences of our cultures and different statues and different factors that affect our decisions. And I think that emotions plays a major role in influencing our everyday cognitive or behavioral functions. Is it okay?
But yes, it's okay, but we
Yes.
can do something about it. So I'm just going to go through that now because we've been taking questions and talking. So one,
Before continuing,
It's
Karen.
okay. It's okay. It's
and
Thank
okay.
you, Zora.
yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And one thing I would say, like Lynn, I'm sure this might be familiar to you or anyone that does recruiting, and it can apply in Morocco, it can apply anywhere. What's in a name? How do we judge people on the CV? So in Quebec, the research has shown the same CV can go out with an English name or French name. 70% of the people with a French name will get the interview. Same CV, English and French. Okay, so we have to look at the resumes. So now we have a lot of organizations that don't have the name on it when the HR gives it to hiring manager. The same thing we see in the orchestra. There are so many more women. Why do you think that is? Anyone?
Blind.
Blind audition?
No,
Mag?
Yeah.
they actually did. They actually did a research to mention that women, they had to do like the blind interviews in order to actually had more women. So now when they do the interview, they just listen. They don't see. It's like a neutral gender. So my belief is that if it's risen, it's because they were able to actually not see the person in front of them, but just go in a blind interview in order to make sure that their own biases and perception were not affected. And this is what I believe.
Just a question, is it in regards of in Quebec City?
Oh,
because they
no,
are in the
Manon.
obligation.
Please share, Manon. I don't know this.
No, but just wondering if this percentage is about a specific country.
Oh.
Because you see, in Quebec, we are in the obligation to give more space to women.
Okay.
Oh, is
So
that true?
maybe the bias will be because they are women, that we will give them a chance.
Okay.
It's
No,
like affirmative action in the States, I guess. No?
well, no, because
No.
with
Okay.
this, the blind audition, there's one thing about having a screen, but they've gone on further now where they put a carpet because of women's shoes, but also because of people that
Yeah.
are disabled for the wheelchair, or if they have crutches. So they're looking at the
Diverse.
whole
Yeah,
aspect.
expect.
Yeah. So all of this, what I'm trying to show you is people are doing things. So recently, what happened was in Ottawa, because of the pilots, they were all white males. Now they don't have the names on the CV, and their hiring committee is their group. If it's two people, it's like a man and a woman, or they try to integrate and have someone from a different ethnicity. So they try to include diversity in their hiring committee. So when we talked about what you could do, and Zora was talking about that, here are some things specifically I wanted to share with you. How do I know what do I know for sure about this person? Have I drawn a conclusion about this person without knowing relevant and full facts? Have I made an assumption about this person? What observation and information have I used to draw my conclusion and assumption? Okay, so we also have age, where people are, she's not good at computers, evaluating competency based on age. So that's another bias. And then the big one that makes everybody realize that unconscious bias is real is Google. When they did the YouTube, they had the videos upside down. 10%, because the engineers were designing it for people with right hand. And one slide I want to show you is the cost of not interrupting bias. So what happens if we don't do anything? We have morale about individuals in the workplace, less commitment, they're not as engaged. The trust, the most important thing in an organization is trust. The work harmony, people won't get along the same way. Job satisfaction, productivity, customer service, adaptability, innovation, recruitment, and retention. Okay, one step. I want you to challenge your bias. Have awareness is key. Pay attention. Explore your awkwardness and discomfort. Engage with people that are others, okay? Those you consider others, and expose yourself to positive role models from different groups. I thank you very much. And I just wanted to go back to just one question here for you. What is one action step you can take to interrupt bias? Anybody that wants to share?
Karen, because we arrive almost at the end, but we can take this last question.
If anyone would like to answer.
The next action is someone, Lynn, asked us for a book you can reference. I think you have a
what I have found the best is the different articles from McKinsey and from Harvard Business Review.
Okay.
But those of you that are coaches, and I guess my solution-focused coaching approach is there's the deeper side, right? And it's belonging at work. And this, I'll let you know, is the most recent book that I bought. And it just helps managers to understand, how do you make people feel that they belong, that they are unique? All of this is all part of the organizational values. So this is where my work is going, the values, belonging at work. And yes, I think some organizations will have to touch upon race or racism.
Can you write the authors of the book? I write the title.
You want to write it?
You know, I don't really see it, but you can.
Where?
In the chat, if you have, or tell me.
Actually, I'll write it. It's Rhonda's. But once you use the title,
we can put it on the follow-up email we will send to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Belonging at work. And I thank you very much again for your attention and for being here.
Rhonda Sperry, so.
Thank you very much to both of you for organizing this, and Karen for delivering. And I'll follow up with you. I'm on the McGill Women's Alumni Association, and we could definitely probably have you as a speaker. And yeah.
It's very interesting, Lynn, because I worked in the alumni office way back.
Oh.
I worked at McGill for 12 years, and I said, okay, now I have more wisdom. I'm older. I have things to share. So I know some of the people from way back.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, because I'm on the McGill Women's Alumni Association. We're always looking for great speakers, and we might, you know, like, this is a very good time to be
okay. Well,
talking about unconscious bias and diversity. So
take care.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you, Manon.
And good luck for your PCC accreditation.
Thanks, Manon. I might ask Joanne for your email. Say, Manon, what do I do now?
No problem. You will easily find me.
Okay. Thank you, Manon.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
And you can follow Karen webinar on LinkedIn, and about the Cabinet Conseil RH too. I'd like to invite you to the next webinar in July. It will be with Hussein Abalbaki. He will speak about happiness at work. Wow. It will be a webinar in French, and he will do it in English in September. So it was really great to have you. It's not really important the number of participants. I think the richest is the talk and the chat we have with Karen. Thank you very much, Karen. And
thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Zora. Bye-bye. Thank you, Magali.